You're listening to Pop This, the podcast where two women talk about everything pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen and Andrea Warner.
So in our many conversations
Yes.
about, it's hard for me to think there might be something we don't know about each other.
I mean, I'm sure there's a few things.
There must be a few things.
Yeah.
And I did just learn a new one from you.
Yeah, I've never thrown up from drinking.
And I cannot claim that at all. How is that possible?
I have a real threshold, and I also hate vomit so much.
Well,
I understand that not a lot of people are like.
I've never heard anyone go, you know what, I really like vomit. Well, that's a whole other thing.
I mean, that's a whole other thing. But just I hate it so much that I have to have really terrible food poisoning or a truly terrible flu in order to actually be able to even let myself. And so I reach a threshold in drinking where if I have one more sip, I know it won't go well, and so I stop.
Oh.
And so I've always been I have been messy drunk, and Carlos would argue there are times when I should have, but I've never thrown up from drinking, and I'm 41 now.
Well, that is an amazing. I have stopped doing that, so I just want that out there.
So you're not still.
I'm not still.
Yeah.
But there were some fun years.
Yeah, sure.
Some rough years.
Yeah.
I think one of the more interesting ones was back in my wild youth, where I had a tequila bender.
Oh yeah.
Which, in the fog of the experience, I do recall being on a golf course stealing flags.
Yep.
And then there was so much vomiting that I had to go to the hospital.
Oh, no.
And I had ruptured the lining of my stomach.
Oh, my God. That's awful.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so that was not good.
No, I'm so sorry. That's awful.
I threw up so much that I broke all the blood vessels.
Oh,
You've seen that? All around my eyes.
I've heard of that.
Little tiny red dots.
Yeah. What about in your eyes?
No, they were fine.
Oh, that's good.
It was just the red dots all around. And I'd like to say I never did that again, but I never ruptured the lining of my stomach.
Okay, good. So
I think that had to do with the tequila and definitely the quantity.
Yeah.
Of it, because you said something quite interesting there, which is having a moment where you know that I'm done.
I have a threshold. I literally can't. I couldn't even force myself to swallow it if I wanted to.
I do not have that.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty lucky. Honestly,
are very lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I remember in hearing so in the movie Almost Famous.
Yeah.
Cameron Crowe has said that was the band. It was Sweetwater, I think, in the movie, but he said it was the Eagles.
Yeah. That
he was with, and he got some advice from Glenn Fry.
Sure.
That's the guy, isn't it? The one that died?
The one that died?
Yeah.
Recently?
Well, last 5 years.
Okay.
I think it was Glenn Fry.
Okay.
Anyway, the advice he was given was, as a young person, I guess he was like 16 or 15 or something, was that when you get to the party, throw back 2 beers really quickly and then just maintain the buzz.
I mean, I think that's pretty good advice.
And I don't know if he kept up with that advice, but I thought, well, I wish I'd read that. I wish I knew that.
You know, I mean, beer for me, I always have one, and then I'm really full. I've literally never been able to drink more than 2 beers in my whole life.
Again, I wish I could say that too.
They're just so filling, and it feels like, and then I have to pee all the time.
Oh yeah.
So
You're a red wine gal.
I'm a red wine gal, but I've also become just like a gin on the rocks.
Oh.
Like just straight gin on the rocks. I love it so much. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I tell you, in the summer, when the very first gin and tonic in the summer, when you finally can just go out onto a patio.
Yeah, yeah. I super hate tonic.
You hate tonic?
I hate tonic. I was just tricked last week I mean, come on. But I was like at a bar.
The tonic hardly has any taste.
No, it has all the taste. I think I love the taste of gin, but there's something about tonic. I think I'm a bit of a super taster. I know. I feel like we've talked about that before.
That's one way to talk about your picky eating. But sure, okay.
No, I know. I mean, it's a fancy way of talking about it.
Sure is.
But I do really like certain flavors are so excessive for me that I can't handle them at all. And tonic is one of those flavors. Like,
wow.
As soon as it's anywhere near my mouth or even smelling it, I don't like.
Really? Is it the quinine?
Whatever it is. I'm not sure what the thing is, but it's so bitter and it's so awful to me.
You know, you had to drink a lot of that in the explorers in Africa so they didn't get malaria.
Oh, yeah. I would have so much malaria.
I think. I don't think it works entirely. Obviously, you have to take other pills and
sure.
stuff. But from what I understand.
Yeah. No, I like just straight gin.
Just a straight gin? No mix at all?
No. Just gin on the rocks. That's it.
Because in the summer, I like a good San Pellegrino, like a grapefruit one with some gin.
Nope, just gin.
Just gin. Wow. I mean, unlike you, which has the picky eater, as we know, I will eat anything.
No, I know. Yeah, it's great.
At all. But I do have particular things.
Sure.
I will. And I do really, a gin and tonic to me is about one of the best things in the whole world, with a sprig of rosemary in there.
Well, so I was at this bar and it was a smoked rosemary gin cocktail. And so I said to the server, the bartender, I was like, "Hey, I don't like tonic. Like, could you just make this without tonic?" And she was like, "It'll lose all the sweetness." And I was like, "Really?" And she's like, "Yeah, like the tonic's actually quite sweet." And I was like,
and then it cuts with the gin. Yeah.
Yeah, and I fell for it. And
you didn't like the taste?
Oh, God, I hated it. I was like, I had to force myself to finish it because, I mean, it's quite an elaborate production. They smoke it in a glass, like...
Is this local?
Bird cage.
Can I have
one
of these?
At the Ventura Room.
Okay.
At the Old Media Club.
Oh, okay. Yes, yeah.
So they smoke. You have to, and you can only drink it at the bar. And we happen to be sitting at the bar.
And I haven't had one of those. I'm going to go for.
Go have it. It sounds exactly up your alley. Yeah, you would love it. But it's not enough rosemary flavor. And honestly, I hate tonic so much, and that just confirmed it for me. It really ruined the drink for me.
Because
I actually find gin. I find gin kind of like sweet enough on its own.
Gin is nice to sip.
Yeah,
I find.
Yeah.
Well, better gins.
Yeah, I mean, I do enjoy better gins, but I will drink your sort of trash gin.
I will too,
on ice.
But there's nothing I like more than reading the menu where it says, like, small distillery.
Oh, I love to hear about all the botanicals.
Yes, yeah, and it makes you all like, oh, well, this must be very sophisticated, like me.
Yes, of course.
So yes, definitely, I like anything. I don't even know if this makes a difference, but when I see aged in an oak barrel, anything.
I mean, I don't think you should necessarily have gin that's aged in
I don't know what they aged
Probably
that
whiskey is better in like a...
Is it like a bourbon or something? They'll
like that
age in a, I don't know, in a World War II bunker. I'm like, yep, that's definitely what I need.
Yeah. This is a segue, but I really liked the looks of the bar that they hang out at in High Fidelity.
It is a good segue.
It's like such a fun looking bar.
There's so much drinking and other combinations.
It's very classic, like just sort of Brooklyn hipster dive bar. And
I like those.
Me too.
Well, I like any bar.
I mean, he also like the bartender provides a first aid kit.
Yeah, the only thing I really require in a bar to have, the most important thing to me is lighting.
I like low lighting.
Yes, low.
Yeah.
I don't like a bar with a big light.
Me neither.
Although, those weird kind of places in the States where they have more like a tavern and they're super dark.
Yeah.
And in the middle of a day, you go in and then...
Well, I like it because, one of the things I like in Europe specifically, really super old taverns.
Yeah.
That have been there for like 200 years.
Yeah.
That are kind of like, they literally have never seen daylight because they have so few windows.
Oh,
those are great.
They are. Well, that's where you want to be.
Yeah.
In the dark.
There's a bar in New York called Arlene's Grocery, and they have like a venue right attached to it as well. Like do a lot of free comedy shows, and I'm sure some paid shows and stuff too. But it was so dark when we walked into it when we were there last time that it actually took my eyes like 5 minutes to adjust to how dark it was.
Yeah.
And then like finding a seat was really only possible because they had the fireplace on.
Okay, that might be...
No, it was perfect.
It was?
You would have really liked it.
That just sounds like not dark. It sounds like being in the dark.
Yeah, it was great though. They've got a fireplace, so you've got some light, but it was great.
Well, it is a perfect segue.
Anyway, New York, we love it. And I also love this TV show.
Yes, we are talking about High Fidelity.
I'm Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
And you're listening to Pop This.
And we are very excited that this happened and that we can watch it and that we can recommend it.
Yeah, so High Fidelity has had an adaptation. It has had a sort of a gender flip casting, and it is now a television series on, well, it's
complicated. It's Hulu,
complicated.
Then you can watch it on Stars.
You can watch it on
Canada.
Stars on Crave in Canada.
But you got to pay for that.
But you have to pay for like the thing, yeah.
One day they will work this all out because right now...
We'll see, yeah. Right now it's a little complicated, but you can watch it on Crave as long as you have the Stars package. And it is obviously based on the 1995 book by Nick Hornby, which was then a movie in 2000 starring John Cusack. And now it is starring Zoe Kravitz.
As Rob.
Which
is clever.
It's great.
Let's just keep Rob.
And another further thing, Lisa Bonet is Zoe Kravitz's mom. She was one of my favorite parts of the movie High Fidelity.
Yeah.
And now Zoe Kravitz, her daughter, is like the lead in this sort of revamped and like this adaptation series.
And in the many articles you can find, just kind of breaking down all the little bits, the bar they always go to is named after her mom's character. In the movie.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
It's, you know what, so we've talked a little bit in the past, like from maybe like the third or fourth episode of this podcast, about sort of the new, at the time, trend of sort of gender flipping shows and movies and things like that, making things that had once been vehicles that were entirely the domain of men and remaking them with sort of women casts.
So we've done a couple too. We did the Ghostbusters.
We did Ghostbusters.
And we did the Ocean's 8. Yes.
Because, when you're an all-women cast, you get 3 less minimum than the starting point of Ocean's 11. We advocated for a Jane Bond, which we may get in the next few years.
Maybe, since this is Daniel Craig's last Bond.
Yeah. And so, I mean, who knows? We'll see
where that
goes.
No Time to Die.
No Time to Die, yeah. I think it's perfect time to die.
This is his last one, so
exactly.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
I'm confused.
I mean, it's a...
But let me just say, quickly, segue.
Yeah.
The Billie Eilish theme song from the new Bond, breathtaking.
It's really beautiful.
It really is beautiful.
Yeah.
And I love the little touches of old Bond themes and Bond trademark sounds.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
anyway.
It's great. But yeah, so we've sort of been talking about gender flips casting for a long time. And so this particular, because High Fidelity was, it really was very much so specifically a story about men and emotions and grappling with breakups and sort of grappling with growing up and like becoming sort of like more sort of like realized people.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
That we were reading an article about that whole idea that was it. I don't know if the right word is right to take us like the gender flip on some things. Who cares if it's Ghostbusters, if it's Ocean's 8, whatever. But this one, as you're saying, so many people thought was particularly male.
Yeah. So the article specifically that like we're talking about is Gillian Mapes wrote a piece for Pitchfork for the pitch about just whether this is necessary.
Yes.
And she's referencing particularly Amanda Hess wrote a piece for, I can't remember if it's New York or Atlantic. Anyway, it's linked in the piece about just whether gender flipping is sort of a limited vision of what storytelling could be because for women, because it's just retelling men's stories without moving us into a space where we're actually telling new stories about women and by women.
Right.
And I get that, but I also understand that like Hollywood is Hollywood and it wants to sort of dig into things that have a proven audience already. And one of the ways that we get sort of like more opportunities for women because of the limited vision of Hollywood is to sometimes do some kind of gender flipping.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I'd like to imagine a future where somebody can just read a book and say, hey, I'd like to make this and put myself as the main character.
Yeah.
Whether that be a trans person, a female, a whatever.
Yeah.
You just say, I like this story.
Yeah.
And I'd like to tell it in a movie.
Yeah. And I think the article that Jillian wrote makes some strong cases. I haven't actually read the book. You have read the book. And I think she makes some strong cases, but she's also not anti this treatment, right? Like, it's the headline makes it seem that she is, but it's not.
Yeah, it sure does. I think it said something like it shouldn't have been done.
We didn't need this.
Yeah, we didn't need this.
Eek. But I really loved watching. We were only talking about the first 2 episodes of the series. We should be clear about that. And we have also gotten way ahead of ourselves and not said anything about the synopsis or anything.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do that. Let's take a step back here, and I will say background. So, High Fidelity is an American romantic comedy web television series based on the novel of the same name by Nick Hornby, also British, and I do think that's interesting and important.
Is the book set in?
No, the book is set in UK, in London.
Okay.
And to be fair, it's interesting to me that there was a lot of pushback on John Cusack wanting to make it American and set it in Chicago.
Okay, yeah.
And that's, for John Cusack to be like, this isn't going to work, which he's been kind of vocal when it was first, announced that
John
this was
Cusack
going to happen.
has become a disappointment to us all.
Yes, he has. And I just remember that conversation at the time because it felt the book and Nick Hornby is very British.
Yeah.
And this whole idea around that particular kind of record store felt very British as well. Mm-hmm. And so, John Cusack deciding to make it American, I think much the same as the argument was, how could Renee Zellweger play, Bridget Jones? Mm-hmm. Anyway, it all works out. See, there we go. I mean, all these conversations.
To a certain extent, everything can be everything.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So, that premiered on Hulu on February 14th, 2020, created by Sarah Kusurka?
I think so.
Okay. And Veronica West, Ugly Betty, Chicago Fire, and Bull. High Fidelity is also, as we mentioned, a 2000 American romantic comedy film directed by Stephen Frears. It stars John Cusack, Ibn Hail, Jack Black, Todd Luiso, and Lisa Bonet. The film is based on the 1995 British novel with the setting moved from London to Chicago, and the name of the lead character changed. It was also adapted into a Broadway musical that ran for 10 days.
10 days. 10 days.
Yeah, so why don't you take on the synopsis here?
Yeah, so as the series begins, Rob, short for Robin, is dealing with the recent end of her relationship with fiancé Mac, played by Kingsley Ben-Adir of the OA. And what a delightful performance he is providing.
Hot. Okay.
And reflecting on why her romances always hit the skids. Like the Rob before her, she decides to hunt down the 5 most significant exes in her life to figure out what she did wrong in all those conscious uncouplings. Also, like previous Robs, she is a pop music savant who owns an apartment filled with records and fully buys into the idea that the things people like are much more important than what they are like. That write-up, the synopsis of that was from Jen Chaney from Vulture.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, again, we're only focusing on the first 2 episodes because we're not going to... It's 10 episodes long. They're all sort of out. They're all available.
They are. Yep.
But we just don't want to go too deep into it. But the first episode, I think, is a perfect intro to this TV show. It's so fun. It's so charming. Zoe Kravitz is wonderful.
It is. It has a real feel. And I think for it to allow yourself to want to spend 10 episodes, which is a lot longer than a movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot longer than 2 hours. You need to feel that you're in another world. Mm-hmm. You want to be in that world. You want to be immersed in it. And you want to stay in it. And they've really created this perfect look. I mean, everything down to her wardrobe, to the set decorating, to this record store, to her friends. It all looks so good.
Yeah, and I think that there's something really, really inspired about her performance too. We've seen Zoe Kravitz in a few other things. She's in
Big Little Lies, I think, mostly is what we've last.
But that show doesn't really give her a lot to do. She's very one note, and particularly in the second season, her one note is guilt and sorrow. And so this show really shows how playful she is, how charming she is. Like, she's sad a lot for sure, but she's also she's just really doing some fun things. Like when Rob decides, like, she's on this like sort of blind date or internet date that she's got with the guy who was the boyfriend in Obvious Child, which is also a note that I made.
Same guy, like, honestly,
same dude, same character.
He's gonna be our new James Marsden.
Well, honestly, I remember watching him in Obvious Child as well, and being like, I mean, this, he's pretty good at what he's doing.
Conventionally attractive, yet somehow not very challenging.
Yeah.
Is how he seems to be cast.
But he has a playfulness about him that I kind of am endeared to, and he's not the same level of chiseled as James Marsden.
No. Just but playing that same kind of like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
He looks great.
Yeah.
He seems nice.
He's the traditional nice guy.
Exactly. That's what I meant. Yeah.
And then she sort of thinks that he's not the traditional nice guy. And they have a whole miscommunication about like.
Well, no, she tries to jump on the date.
Well, she tries to jump out on the date.
Yeah.
But then she wakes up and he's gone.
No. She leaves in the middle of the date, but then she leaves her phone on the table.
No, I know. But after all of that, and after they've like gone. Oh
yeah.
Together,
but I mean, right at the
in the bar.
In the bar.
It's so funny. Like they attempt to sort of peace out, like in the bathroom, and then she comes back. She realizes she's like forgotten her phone. She has to come back and get her phone. She's embarrassed because she knows that. But then she realizes he's
not the worst guy in the whole world at all.
But I really like the cuteness of that moment as she has like spilled her drink, like by accident.
Yeah.
And she's kind of like feels, sort of like anxious and like unsettled, and then he like knocks over his drink for her, like in order to make her feel better. And it's a really cute, sweet moment. Like
it is a very, very cute scene, and I think it also is a super great scene, very early, like right in this first episode, because it gives us a sense that this is a woman with a lot of baggage and issues.
Yeah,
and she's trying to be up next to a guy who just doesn't have any of that same baggage and issues and is just, wow, you're hot, you're smart, you're funny, this is a great date. And she's like, I'm not there for you for this stuff.
Yeah.
Like your whole togetherness is not working for me.
Yeah. But I like how he wins her over in that moment. And
yes.
It's such great writing.
It is.
It's not forcing anything that's like too confessional or cutesy. Like he sees in that moment that he needs to do that.
Yeah. To put her at ease. It's very sweet.
He's got like some good instincts. She's charmed by it and thinks it's funny. And then they have a nice time, and then they have seemingly some good sex.
Yeah, because when they probably go to their respective conversations with friends, he'll be like, I don't know why I'm always so attracted to very complicated women. And then, because everyone says I'm such a nice guy. Mm-hmm. And then she's like, what's wrong with me that I can't just like a nice guy who cares about me?
Yeah, and I love how over the course of those 2 episodes, we find out some crucial information that they've sort of withheld from us, which is that she actually arrives at the bar having just run into Mac, her ex.
Which they don't let us know.
They don't let us know right away.
Yeah.
And so
literally the love of her life, her ex-fiance. Yeah.
And she knows that she screwed it up because like we discover like in those 2 episodes that like she, had found the ring. Well, we don't know exactly how it fell apart, but we know that it's so much, right? But I really love how we get these glimpses of all of her exes in that first episode.
Yeah, we do. She does a quick kind of montage.
It's super front-loaded. Yeah. I laughed so hard when she's standing outside that woman's window.
Yeah.
Because Rob is bisexual. And she's standing outside her ex's window, and she screams. I mean, there's a swear, so I probably can't say it. But anyway, she screams, "You effing B word," and then let's work it out.
Yeah.
And, oh my God, it's so funny. Like, I mean, there are not a lot of people that can pull off that particular like desperate, angry, sad, vulnerable combo.
And I kept thinking about how that part in the movie version with John Cusack was Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yeah.
It's formidable.
Truly.
Yeah. And I always think back, you've Do you remember that movie very well? Or
I mean, I haven't seen it since it came out, so I remember being. So it came out in 2000. I would have been 21. I remember because I still loved John Cusack at that time.
Yeah, sure, we all did.
You know, that was, I know, what a more pure time.
Yeah.
And so I remember like thinking that this show. I mean, I do remember thinking that it was a hard movie to fully wrap my brain around because I don't love, and I don't think I've ever loved movies wherein a man is using women to figure out himself.
Well, and that's one of the things that was, yeah, exactly. And that's one of the great things was, I remember very clearly when he comes to see Catherine Zeta-Jones, and she's just like, if you're here to do some sort of what did I do wrong, you can walk right on out that door.
Because she's already had that talk with so many of her exes.
Yeah, and she doesn't need it, and she doesn't care. And it's like your issue. Don't come to me with your issue.
Yeah.
It's 100% your thing.
Yeah.
Like, don't, and I love the way that they kind of set her up as this person who is kind of immune to those kinds of things and carries through with that. Like, honestly, buddy, we were upfront about this whole thing.
Yeah.
Take off.
Yeah. And I think like, and I love also, the other thing I love about the bar scene is that we truly sort of like get to understand a little bit more about her relationship to music.
Oh, because
the Fleetwood Mac conversation. I mean,
because he just not knowing what kind of person she is with music.
Yeah.
He just decides, but knowing she is into music.
Yeah.
Dreams is playing by Fleetwood Mac, and he just casually says, am I an idiot if you think I'm an idiot if I like this song?
Yeah.
And it would be with any normal person.
Yeah.
Because this is where I 100% relate with this
me
movie.
too.
And
Me
I
too.
know you do too. It's just...
I was like, literally, I had the conversation about The Wait like 3 weeks ago. About like the fire of that song. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so when she just goes into this long breakdown of the entire Rumors album, how it's not her favorite, Tusk is, controversial opinion, and then goes through the whole thing. And this man's eyes are just... Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I have to say, that's when I knew this is the show for me.
Yeah.
Because as women, we've had these kinds of conversations. And I have them with other women who like music as much.
all the time.
But men are used to only having those conversations. Well, they really aren't used to having women have them.
And I think it's because pop culture has insisted that music is the domain of men.
Yes.
And we've seen this in like media. We've seen this in so many places. I know that you've been a music journalist for so long. When I started, which is, 13 years ago even, I was still one of only a handful of women writing about music at the time.
Yeah.
Like it's changed substantially even in the last 13 years, but like, I mean, you've been in it even longer.
Yeah,
like,
no, and it's always been...
and particularly your metal interest, like, yeah, I can only imagine there's been very little space for you.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't actually got too much pushback from people, but I know there's a sense that you're a bit like a leprechaun.
Yep.
You know?
Yes. Yes.
So, and a little bit more of a, like maybe I would say that it's not so much the pushback, but I've definitely felt men threatened by it.
Yeah. And they want to explain
and
bands
they want
to you.
Yes.
They don't want to have a dialogue with you about how you have equal information and opinions.
And that perhaps maybe the thing you think you like is just because you don't know the information I do. And
Yes. Or the thing that you think you like is because you're a girl and you haven't thought about it more deeply.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Anyway, and I think like, I mean, that's one of the reasons that I like the friends in this movie as well. I really like Charisse. Is that Charisse? Is that, yeah, Charisse.
Yes, who comes in with Dexy's Midnight Runners right away. Like,
oh my God.
Boom.
So, but like when Charisse, sort of like goes off on people, it feels so much more sort of like an informed position than just a general cruelty of a like misogynistic record store employee.
Yeah, no, I know.
Like there's like so much more I don't know, there's just so much more context to the conversation that Charisse is bringing to the table.
Yeah, she's just not throwing on that song. She's got reasons for it and why she likes it.
Yes.
And I think that, I do wonder, like, the kind of people who want to watch this show.
Yeah.
I'm interested in who they are and what what the draw is. Is it the music? Is it Zoe Kravitz? Is it rom-com? Like, I'm curious about that because they do a lot of deep dive into music, and these people are given all this room to be, insane about music, which I am 100%. I am that kind of person that if I look at your music collection, I will think differently of you. I might not say 100% that about you, but I will be,
Which, fine, totally fair. So here's the thing for me in the second episode, when they go to see that guy.
The sexy Irish singer?
Yeah, who's performing a cover of Boys to Men.
Yeah.
And they're all dumbstruck.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't know. I've seen so many white dudes perform slowed down acoustic covers of great sort of black R&B pop songs.
Well, I do.
It's not that exciting,
It's not that exciting, but I do remember recently watching that Schitt's Creek episode where Patrick does the acoustic version of Simply the Best. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's
Tina Turner.
That's like contextually. Like, I mean, it's a good cover, but it's also really romantic because of the characters,
But
right?
it's funny that I was so close to these two scenes.
Yeah.
Like, it was like about a month ago or something. I saw that. And I've heard people ask, Dan Levy about, does Tina Turner know about this? And he's like, please, people, why in the world? But thank you.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And I do just what I mean, though, is, and I understand all that context, but I remember thinking it sounded like a completely different song.
Yeah.
And I do like when artists do that.
I like it too. I just like
it
that
didn't blow
song,
you over.
It didn't blow me over.
Right.
And I didn't believe that a character who's as cool as Rob is going to really be all that dumbstruck by it.
Did you look at him, though?
Yeah, sure. He's pretty. I get that part.
And I think it was more, I guess for me, I like the way they set the scene up.
Yes.
Which is that, am I hearing Boys to Men? So their first was kind of like, which I would do, which is like, okay, what?
Yeah.
Like, I've got a lot of thoughts. Mm-hmm. And now I'm coming in and all of my thoughts have been completely changed. And also I have to say that one of the things that worked for me about that scene was that he was into it.
Yes. Oh, he's very into it.
You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't like,
fine. Like,
I'm a joke. I'm just going to pull out a Boys to Men song and just, we'll all like, I remember, you see bands do it all the time.
So many times, yeah.
They'll just do, and it's all very ironic.
Like Ben Gibbard covering like Avril Lavigne's Complicated.
Yeah, exactly. Those sorts of things, right? Yeah. But when someone's really, you can tell they like that song and they do. So I will cut it some slack for that.
That's fine. We
are proving high fidelity now. We just had a high fidelity.
But even Charisse being excited about it, I was just like, no, girl. Like, you wouldn't be that thrilled.
Yeah, I mean, I do, but I guess I wasn't like thrown over because I've seen that gimmick before, and that's what we're saying. It's a gimmick, right?
It's totally a gimmick.
It is totally a gimmick, but when someone is doing a good job of it, I do go, oh, okay, that worked. Yeah. I don't know if I would say give that boy a Grammy or something. I'm with you there.
Do you have any like top 5 lists like that have had that impact on you? Like the top 5 lists of your life, like the thing that the soundtrack to your life?
Well, I feel like, okay, so when I read the book, every chapter starts with a list.
Yeah.
And I never. I think I lived my life through a lot of blissful ignorance, which has served me probably well in some spots. Uh-huh. I didn't read it thinking it was a man's book. I didn't think about it as a man. I thought of it as a person who likes music.
Yeah.
And I've always thought of Nick Hornby that way.
Yeah.
And I recognize he also has like this, football or soccer thing and Fever Pitch.
Yes.
He has these big interests that are obsessive, but I'm also as obsessive, so I wasn't reading it. I was reading it as a person who likes a lot of music. Mm-hmm. I don't have a collection of albums that I refile every time I'm sad and that kind of business and stuff. But, and I think, honestly, this is a weird thing, too. I think over the years, being on social media has made me make more lists than I probably ever would have wanted to because they always, you'll always see a tweet go by that'll say, top 5 songs from a band whose name started with B or whatever. And you're like, oh, I'm gonna think about that. Also...
you're like Blondie, blonde redhead.
Also looking up more playlists, and I know people always make mixtapes and stuff. That's not really the same thing as lists.
There's lists and there's mixtapes, and they're a bit different. And I mean, I make a lot of them for like my work sometimes.
Yes. Yeah.
I've made a lot of them. I've made a lot of. I don't use Spotify because we have an Apple Music membership in our house, for obvious reasons. So I don't use Spotify, and I think I would actually really enjoy it. But I used to make mix CDs all the time. Oh my God, so many. I used to make, and I make a lot of YouTube playlists for my job. Like, and I put together different and I do like a lot of commentary on video, like music and songs and stuff. So I love that aspect of this. And honestly, going through her selection process, Rob's selection process, through that, I think the second episode, where we're hearing about just little small moments like Minnie Riperton and and she's like, well, it has to be Prince, but then she obviously goes with the Sinead cover of the Prince song,
yes.
I like,
and here's the other thing about this show for people who aren't as into music as we are. None of this feels like overthinking to me.
No.
And this feels all very rational. And I don't know if that says more about.
It's so deeply rational. I think that, and because you can sort of bring I think you can bring so many different interests to this TV show. If you are obsessed with music, great. This is a nice place for you to hang out. If you're not, you can still appreciate so many other aspects of it.
There's sure.
Really great there are some very specific music critic throwaway or digs. So when they're in the club and the guy, he's like, do you want to go see a hot chip DJ set? I know the secret location. And Charisse is like, the secret location is 2007.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Vicious. Fell off my chair laughing so hard.
And when he's describing some new dance thing that hasn't quite taken off yet, but might, not really sure. That definitely was so funny.
It's so perfect.
I think another really important aspect of all of this is that Nick Hornby is an executive producer, also wrote a piece about how excited he was about this.
Yeah.
And and I never felt this about him. He actually, he was actually the person who wrote the screenplay from that really wonderful Carey Mulligan movie.
Yeah.
Whose name? Education.
Yes. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Bad Education? No,
not Bad Education.
Anyway. Yeah. Which was a very female.
I think it's literally called An Education.
An Education. Yeah. Okay. And that was an extremely female story. Mm-hmm. And he felt, and I heard him interviewed about how important he felt that he was asked to do this, and how, he really loved it. And I do feel like there's a part of him that doesn't like that idea that there's someone saying your work is exclusively for men.
Yeah, I don't think that that's, and thank goodness, really, because we've seen so many people who are.
No, exactly.
So only specifically interested. Do you find that the relationship stuff translates a lot of, and because I feel like in this situation, the relationships seem to be a little more undefined. It's more casual dating or even long-term dating. Her relationship with Mac is serious. They seem to live together, and and then we see him leave and he's heading to England and stuff. And so we know that relationship definitely seems serious, but the other relationships all seem infinitely more casual.
She's working with one of them.
Yeah, now. Yeah.
I mean, it just, but that was an interesting twist too.
But do you think it's part of being 2020? Because the book is 25 years old, right?
Well, but okay, then just confirm something for me.
Yeah.
So I got confused.
Yeah.
As you pointed out, she's bisexual.
Yeah.
But the scene seemed to suggest that the reason they were splitting up with the guy that worked in the record store is because he was taking a phone number from a guy in the...
But he literally, Simon, so that's David Holmes, David H. Holmes plays Simon.
Yeah.
He literally says, I think I'm gay.
Oh.
And then they have that hug, and
Okay, I'm sorry.
No. And honestly, they didn't, I think when she was talking about what their relationship looked like...
She said we both like the same thing.
They're the ones who say to each other, it's more important what you like than...
Yes.
I wrote the actual quote down.
Yeah, okay. I was just confused. Okay,
the things that you like are more important than what you are like.
Yeah, okay. Well, that is the fact that he doesn't like women will make it very, very difficult for her to continue a relationship with him.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I think they establish how they have like a real sort of like best friend vibe.
Yeah. No, I know. It was just that scene
vibe.
confused me. I wasn't entirely sure if
because it's so quiet. He's
exchanging a phone number in a laundromat.
Yeah, and then they have their, I think it's like in maybe the subway that they have like their sort of conversation breakup.
Because I wasn't sure if they were like an established couple already and they were like exclusively dating. I think
they'd been together for a while.
Okay,
but I think like because we see that like sex is pretty important to her, and we see that they have almost zero sex.
Right. Okay.
You know, like it's established.
I was just a bit better. Makes much more sense to me how they can keep this working relationship, and it's great.
Yeah, and I think it's. I mean.
And again, casting, flawless.
Such good casting.
Yeah.
Such good casting. So do you think like the casualness of the relationships as we've sort of seen them unfold, like I feel like this feels like a more contemporary situation than what is sort of laid out in the 2000 version. Like those seemed like, I don't know, just more conventional, like sort of
serial monogamy
kind of relationships.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I didn't really like Rob, so I just
John Cusack
Rob. Yeah, I just didn't like him. I just thought he was a mopey baby all the time. He just seemed insufferable.
Yeah.
I could not understand why anybody at all would be attracted to him.
Yeah, I mean, I was into mopey babies for a while. And it's not a fun look on anyone.
No, I don't mind someone being complicated or dark, you know.
Yeah.
But not just a constant, insufferable, whiny person.
Yeah, and he always, and I think part of it is John Cusack's performance as Rob is always tinged with anger.
Yes.
And that's not what Zoe Kravitz brings.
No, she is definitely giving off a person who is not entirely sure of herself. Yeah. Therefore, she's very mistrusting of people who want to be close to her.
Yeah. And
classic,
and she screws up too. Like
she screws up.
You know, she does a little bit of self-sabotage.
Yes.
She has some hostilities and stuff, but her main acting choice is not constant low-key anger.
No,
which I'm so grateful for.
It's definitely, there's a kind of ennui.
There is a little, yeah.
And I don't mind an ennui.
No.
It's very French to me, and I like that.
I think it'll change a little bit, because I feel like because we end the episode of episode 2 where she finds out that he's got Mac
engaged.
Is back and has a Lily.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think she knows that he's engaged yet, but it's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie is several years old.
Yeah,
okay. The book is even older.
Yes.
So she doesn't know he's engaged yet, but I mean, there'll be more heartbreak at that point, obviously. But like, she certainly, she does begin to express some of that rage at the end, but it's a funnier kind of rage. Like,
well, she has that, and we've only got 2 episodes in, but I've never seen anyone so addicted to just walking out in the middle of things.
I love it.
It is
great character trait.
And the fact that what I really love too is that everyone knows it. Like her brother and sister-in-law are just like having brunch with her.
Yeah.
And then the sister-in-law is going, she just left, didn't she? Yes, she did. Like, this is what can happen in the middle of a meal with someone.
And the sister-in-law thinks it's justified. Well, she's like, you're an idiot. Yeah, what are you doing?
But I could never do that.
Oh, me neither.
I mean, I could try.
Yeah.
But then 10 seconds later, I come, okay, just so you know, I do want to go.
Yeah.
But let's settle this right now.
But I love
that.
Well, and I think that this speaks again to sort of the contemporary element of like, she's, probably like under 30, like maybe 28 or something in the show. Like,
I haven't got a sense of her age at all.
I mean, I think Zoe Kravitz isn't that old in general.
She's 32, I think, in real life. Okay. 31 or 32, yeah.
So I wouldn't say she's like older than that in this show.
No.
And so she has like, she just has a different relationship to ghosting than I do.
Ghost anybody.
I know.
Family, friends, just whoever.
But what a brilliant set of, in a way, it's a very inspirational set of boundaries she has, because she's just like, you know what, this situation is really not good for me, and she just like in her own head, she's like, I'm out. I
have to say, it was rather shocking in the second episode to have set this wonderful relationship up, where she's with Mac.
Yeah,
Mac, who's making her this lovely dinner, is incredibly hot. They have so much fun together. Sex looks amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of anything that this man could. He's British accent right there, bang, right?
Yep.
And then she sees the ring, and then he's putting dinner on the table, and she says, I'm going out for cat food, and doesn't come back.
Yeah.
I was really, I mean, I don't know if I'll be honest and say, I don't know if I was watching this movie or show, and a guy did that, if I would be as sympathetic.
No, because, I mean, the power dynamic is so different.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that is part of, I think it's part of some of the focus of some of the like longer form critiques of the show, you know, is just that because the gender flip does change the power dynamic so substantially.
And we did read that in the piece too.
Yeah. And there's a few other, like, there's this piece by Shirley Lee in The Atlantic. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but High Fidelity, the film, implied that Rob felt emasculated and insecure about his stagnant career in relation to Laura's more impressive work as a lawyer. It's why he lashed out and seethed after she chose to leave and later chased Marie as a one-night stand. Robin also felt troubled by her relationship because she always saw Mac as too good for her. In their breakup scene, she quietly sobs as he takes off. And as happy as she is to have slept with Liam, their night together doesn't reassure her that she's ready for a relationship. So I guess I am going to read the whole thing. Sorry.
Yes.
The series writers interpreted the character in terms of how a woman in Rob's position would likely respond. On the outside, Robin doesn't want to seem like clingy or crazy ex, so she tempers her reactions and saves her bitterness for her asides to the camera. It's a distinction that this remake definitely underlines how women's reactions to breakup can be easily stereotyped.
Yes.
And I think that's a really and that's Shirley Lee, The Atlantic, super valid sort of in our, as we have and that's one of the things that I like about doing this podcast with you is we engage, I think, pretty deeply on what the stuff is about and what our takeaways, and we think about it maybe a lot more than if I was just watching something that's a little bit, if I was just watching something that's kind of forgettable,
yes.
I might not.
On that front too, because I think what's been a really interesting dynamic over the years, I think that for years, if any movie or TV show had a man hitting a woman, it was, and it still is, horrible.
Oh, horrifying.
But if a woman hit a man, it was all I'm thinking about The Holiday.
Yeah,
where Cameron Diaz punches.
Yeah, it's a comedy point.
Comedy, it isn't, and we've now come a long way where violence is violent. You know what I mean? We understand there's a power, one person's stronger, but it's still wrong. Hitting somebody, using physical force against someone.
Yeah.
No matter what the gender, unless you're defending yourself, you know what I mean? Yeah. But it's not used for comedy anymore.
Not anymore. And so that's why we having that context around sort of when this was made and what this looks like. And and I think interrogating some of those power dynamics, the reason I can laugh at Robin standing outside of her ex-girlfriend's window and screaming, "You effing B word," and then immediately, let's work it out, is because there's not the same level of physical threat.
No, it's not. Yeah, you're right. It just isn't.
It just isn't.
No.
And that's because of, frankly, statistics.
Yeah.
The gender-based violence is very, very real.
Yeah, we're not saying it doesn't happen, but not on a scale that it's an actual worry.
Yeah, and we also know that, I just finished, and this is going to be my recommendation at the end of the show, but, I was reading, Carmen Maria Machado's memoir In the Dream House, and I just finished reading it for my book club, and that's all about same-sex abusive relationship. And so we know that not all violence in romantic relationships is male on female. Obviously, lots of stuff is happening no matter how, gender nonconforming or gender whatever it is, whatever you identify as. Violence is happening all the time in lots of different ways, and there's lots of different sort of complicating elements of that. But we also know that just the reality is, femicide is very prevalent in our society and in our culture. Yeah, and we don't have a lot of language for sort of figuring out how to de-escalate from this idea of men have that women are property, and Rob is always sort of that angry person.
Yes.
Robin is not going to be depicted as a constantly angry person.
No.
She could be constantly angry for other things. She's a Black woman in America.
Yeah.
Like there's so many things that that they can engage with in that way, in that anger, but it's not going to be the same sort of like patriarchal violence.
No, it won't. It doesn't feel threatening.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It feels sad, and I felt when she walked off and went to the bar, I actually felt like pretty. I don't know what the right word is. It's only a second episode, so I really don't know what feeds into her fleeing these things, right?
Yeah.
But I felt really like it was a gross moment.
I found it sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I just felt really, and plus we'd already seen them break up, and we saw her crying so hard, and then you're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been that great to this guy.
No,
and he's
for sure.
And then when she apologizes to him, he's already in bed, and he's very understanding. Way more understanding than I ever would have been. I think then he's in love with this person, and this isn't obvious. This is out of left field, but it's not quite, right?
This is not unexpected, I think.
Yes. And so he's very kind, and like, I get it.
And because she ultimately does then say to him, let's get married.
Yeah, she does.
She proposes to him.
I don't know if I would have been that person that I think I would have gone, man. Well, maybe
let's have some more conversation.
Yeah, let's have some more conversation. Like, I'm gonna sleep on this, you sleep on this, and we'll see how we feel in the morning.
Well, and I think
because literally you walked out for several hours.
Well, and I think like one of the things that we see over and over, and I mean this is in real life and this is in film and television, is that radical honesty is pretty hard, and you have to have a lot of trust, and you have to have a lot of. Not just trust in the other person, but trust in yourself that you're like kind of actually saying things that you believe and you're not just caught up in some other moment, And so obviously, I mean, I think people get married all the time for very wrong reasons.
Yeah, and as I'm saying, we don't know her backstory yet too much about what led her to this place where she is afraid of being vulnerable. She's afraid of committing to these relationships and what happened in the past. I mean, I always think of things like having my dogs, right, who are rescue dogs, and one of them took a full year before he would allow himself to let us hold him and snuggle him, and that's who he wanted to be.
Yeah.
That was his nature. His nature was, and that's what you see animals are like, right? Yeah. Like, especially dogs. Their nature is to want to be with you, but if they've been mistreated, it takes them a long, long time to go, are you sure? Are you sure?
Yeah.
And so you see that with people too, right? Like in these movies, especially rom-coms, right? There's always some reason why that next step is hard. And generally there's a lot of hurt that's come to that point.
So much.
Having another person that can understand that is also a really big part of a relationship.
Yeah, and I feel like one of the things we are only 2 episodes in, so it's early days. But one of the things that this, I think, does make a lot of space for in this structure of 10 episodes is that we're going to spend a little bit more time with each relationship and see how, even though ultimately often it looks like she's been left, that I'm assuming that actually she's sort of been doing a lot of the leaving before it's officially over. Or at least
making it look like, that someone needs to leave because it's untenable.
Yeah. So I think one of the joys of the show will be spending time watching Robin sort of interrogate herself more meaningfully. Because I think she's doing the surface thing, which is like figuring out the playlist for each breakup and figuring out the sort of, going to start having some conversations. We're going to start like meeting all these people in a little bit more of a legit way. We're going to sort of, if it's mirroring the original movie, there's lots of stuff that's about to come up, and I think but I think they're just I think this is a more sophisticated treatment.
I do too.
Yeah. I don't know. There's nothing about it that I don't like so far.
Agreed. Well, except for the Boys to Men cover, but
I mean, no. I mean, even that, the Boys to Men cover is fine. I like the original, and I'm not going to be ashamed of it.
Well, that's, the original's always the true one.
I think the other thing that one of the things that I really love to do is I always like to think about sort of like, the casting of a character. And so Jen Chaney, again, for Vulture, she talks about Rob's race and gender is of special significance because music culture has historically been so dominated by white male perspectives, as the original High Fidelity proves. So the fact that this Rob could be fixated on vinyl and possesses much deep musical knowledge as a white dude shouldn't be a radical notion, but 25 years after Hornby's novel was first published, it's still somewhat revolutionary for pop culture to acknowledge this. And her Exhibit A, longtime pop music writer Jessica Hopper literally wrote the book, the first collection of criticism by a living female rock critic, only 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And the statement in that title wasn't literally true, but it was pretty damn close.
But to be, but to be fair too, I think it would be nice in the future. I hope there's a whole bunch of younger women watching this for the first time, realizing they have a place in that world. Because I don't know as many women who are as nerdy about music as I am.
Well, I have to say, like, I feel like I'm pretty lucky that actually, like, most of my team at CBC Music is women.
But that's where you work. That's not.
I
like,
know.
In general,
but I feel like I hang out with like a lot of like people who really love music in a meaningful way, and going and my sort of peer community on Twitter and social media and stuff.
Yeah,
the majority of music writers that I follow tend to be women.
Yeah,
and
agree.
like
Same.
You too. And so I go to this conference every year called PopCon, which is academics and music critics, and like more and more and more every year we're seeing something closer to gender parity in who's presenting, who's pitching, bigger conversations around, race and representation as well, making a lot more space for, like, there have been so many more panels in the last few years, even, like, particularly focusing on, like, non-binary and trans critics, Latinx critics, like, we haven't seen a ton of stuff by Indigenous music writers, but that's starting to change. Mm-hmm. So, like, it's a really exciting time, I hope, for...
Well, that's what I mean, hope.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful. I just hope there's a, like, that women have that sense that they can be in there. It's not intimidating. It's just a passion.
It is,
and if you already have that passion... I hope you don't meet that wrong person that just excludes you out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that,
and it's easy to get intimidated.
It's easy to get intimidated.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been intimidated a lot of times, you know, and I think, like, it took me a while to sort of, like, feel like I had earned any credentials, even though I've been doing this for a really long time, and I don't know so much. Like, partly, yes, it was like sort of like a gender-based thing. Partly it was also just. I have lots of different little hangups. Like, I don't come from an academic background, so I sometimes feel a little bit like I'm on I'm just on a less like I have less scrutiny.
Do you find there's as many? Do you find film or music critics have a lot of their academics? Do you find?
A lot have at least come from a background of having a degree in something, and I don't have a degree in anything.
Yeah.
So that's always given me a little bit of, but that's my own sort of like, academic and class sort of like issue. And so I think like. Yeah, but I feel like this is the kind of show, and particularly because the creators are women, there are a lot more people, it seemed like, behind the camera who are, it seemed, and I think Zoe Kravitz is a producer as well.
Yeah.
I just feel like, and the character of Charisse is I love Charisse so much.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I can't wait to see how Charisse evolves. Like, I feel like we're in for something that hopefully is like kind of pretty special.
And I'm gonna hope that it's a breakout role for her, like it was Jack Black in the first High Fidelity.
Totally.
Because take it.
Yes.
Keep
please,
going. Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me this pops.
Oh, pop.
Yeah. I love it so
High
much.
pops.
We also love to leave our episodes on something we recommend.
Yeah, so I spent a recent weekend where I wasn't feeling so great, so I binged an entire British murder mystery called The Stranger on Netflix.
Oh, Tell me more.
Oh, yes. It really just sucks you right in. So you're in like about 5 minutes. Dad taking his kids to the soccer field. They're playing. His wife's at a convention. He's having a beer in the...
Oh, is this the one that stars Dexter?
No.
Michael C. Hall? Okay, never mind. Sorry.
No, this is Richard Armitage, who I can't stop thinking of as Thorin Oakenshield.
I don't know
the dwarf in The Hobbit.
Okay.
The king of the dwarves,
Mm-hmm. Okay, sorry.
So that's him.
Apologies.
But he's not playing a dwarf in this. He's just playing an English lawyer.
Okay.
Anyway, he's at a bar. A woman comes up to him. This is the first 5 minutes, so I'm just going to tell it because this will get you in. And he keeps seeing this woman staring at him, this young one. Finally, she comes up to him and goes, I just think you need to know this, that you remember that pregnancy that your wife lost? And he's like, oh my gosh, who are you? What's going on? She says, she faked it.
Ooh.
And if you don't believe me, check your Visa bill. You will find a payment for something. And then she leaves.
Goodness.
That's all I'm going to tell you.
Wow. All right.
Great detective team. Jennifer Saunders is in it. Cool. So, yeah, I could not stop. I went through all those 8 episodes in a day.
Wow. I
wasn't feeling great, and it was raining.
Sure. I've been there, dude. Those are honestly
if I said
to
someone
days.
like I found the greatest mystery novel and read it all day, everyone would be like, "Oh, you read a whole book in a day?
I know.
Yay!" You say you watched the whole Netflix, and they're like, "No."
I know.
Or you.
I know.
Were your 9,000 cats clawing at you? Like, no, they weren't. My one was, but no.
No shade from me.
Okay.
As I mentioned earlier,
yes.
I'm recommending Carmen Maria Machado's In the Dream House. It's such an incredible book. It's there are obviously moments that are hard because the subject matter is hard. And I listened to the audiobook. I've been reading, sometimes I read via audiobook, sometimes I read via full text, tangible book. But she reads the audiobook. And so it's really lovely. I guess there are some things that you sort of lose in that because there's a choose your own adventure style that unfolds in the physical book. So, there's different, consume them both actually, if you want.
All right.
But you learn as much about the actual craft of writing in Carmen's work as you do about whatever the subject is. And so I highly, highly recommend. It's so beautiful, and everyone should read it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, gee, thanks, everyone. Hope you get to High Fidelity.
Yeah, I hope everyone can find it, and I hope that you just sort of enjoy it. I can't wait to watch the rest of the episodes.
Yeah.
You could, if you want to email us, you could email us at popthiscollective@gmail.com. You could tell us something that maybe you want us to cover in the future, or you could tell us your own playlists. 5 songs, top 5.
Yeah.
Tell us also if you want about your top 5 exes. I'm into that. I welcome that conversation. And you could also rate and review us 5 stars on iTunes.
And we record at the Vancouver Public Library. Andrea Gin is our producer. And, keep playing music. It's all that's important.
Bye.
Bye.